City of Stevens Point Police and Fire Commission meeting, recorded Tuesday, June 2, 2020.
Would you be kind enough to please call the roll?
Carlson?
Here.
Kirschling?
Here.
Moore?
Here.
Ostrowski?
Here.
Westcott?
Here. In the President's report today, I want to defer most of it to something I've asked of Assistant Chief Zenner late yesterday. It was, as my colleagues know, a little over a week ago that the nation watched in horror the tragic death of George Floyd on a street in Minneapolis. Much of our nation, I believe, is heartbroken at this horrific event, at this horrific happening. Since that time, we in the Stevens Point Police Department have received some calls, some emails, inquiring about various arrest techniques that are permitted or prohibited, inquired about body cameras, are they used here, dash cameras, car cameras, a variety of topics that over the years the Commission has discussed, analyzed, shared with the community. But I think it's appropriate today to just kind of remind all commissioners and our community of a number of items that the police department has done at the direction of its leadership over the years to address many of the calls and emails that have been received. So an opportunity to address that publicly to the community. I've asked Assistant Chief Zenner to quickly review some of the points that they've heard in email and phone calls and share information with everyone in this community who's interested in it. So with that, Tom, would you quickly roll through or take as much time as you want, important points, answer questions that we're receiving from the community, please.
Thank you. And first, I'd like to say I've had multiple conversations with Sheriff Mike Lucas, Chief Dan Alt from Plover, Chief Tony Bobble from the UWSP, and certainly I don't speak for them, but I believe consistently with what I am to put out, and I'm sure, I know we'll be meeting later today. They will have more to elaborate, in particular to their individual communities. But yesterday I talked to a commissioner, our commission president, Gary Westcott, about the incident which took place in Minneapolis, and I was aware we were going to be talking about this incident today. Spent a good portion of yesterday thinking what I would say, and truly find myself at a loss for words to address the horrific and senseless death of George Floyd and the tragic events that continue to this day. The first paragraph of the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics states, as a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve the community, to safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against abuse or disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights of all to liberty, equality, and justice. To say we witnessed a failure at this basic fundamental edict of our profession is an understatement. As a profession, we are better than this. I have received several emails and calls from members of our community voicing their concerns and, frankly, fear of law enforcement. They're rightfully concerned if we are doing enough to prevent such incidents that we have witnessed in Minneapolis from happening here. The majority of the questions asked involved appropriate operational oversight, policies, video recording capabilities and training, specifically de-escalation tactics and diversity. I'd like to take this time to now answer some of those inquiries that I've received. First off, I'd like to point out a few things that we are doing in regards to training. Not only do we conduct annual defense and arrest tactics at the Stevens Point Police Department, as other departments do also, This covers the entire spectrum of use of force, from verbal dialogue to lethal force, but we also require all personnel to attend a 40-hour training block for crisis intervention training, also known as CIT. CIT training is designed to train officers to deal with individuals in crisis without the situation escalating further into a use of force scenario. Our department has been an example for others since the early 2000s, as we have required all our officers to attend this elective training. Furthermore, all use of force incidents at our department, which includes everything from simply placing a hand on a subject, removing a handgun from a holster, or displaying a canine in a situation, is reported on a separate document and reviewed individually by the department use of force instructor to confirm whether that officer was within policy compliance. Our use of force instructor completes an end-of-year report, which is included in the department's annual report, and obviously that is released to the public yearly. Our department is at the forefront of this reporting process, and only this year has the state of Wisconsin required a more general state reporting requirement. We have been doing this for several years. Our department is only one of a few regional departments that also has both squad video camera and individual body cam video capabilities. All video is stored in compliance with state law for 120 days, unless it deals with a particular incident requiring longer storage, such as an arrest. Our department also has several policies in place that address identified concerns. Some of those policies that come to mind include use of force review boards, bias-based policing, standards of conduct, which specifically addresses discrimination and oppression. On a final note, and as those on the commission know, our department has 5-member police and fire commission that is staffed by civilian members of this very community. Stevens Point Police and Fire Commission is unique in that it has optional powers. We're only one of 14 police departments in the state of Wisconsin that have a PFC with optional powers. This means we report directly to a PFC, and we have direct civilian oversight and authority over all police operations. I'm confident that we're addressing a great number of concerns that have been brought to me, but we can do better. As a profession, we need to do better. We need to continue to work towards that goal, not only being an honorable example of this profession, but also within our community, not what we're witnessing in the national media today. Have any questions for anybody here?
Thank you, Assistant Chief Senator. I know you didn't have a lot of time to prepare that, and I know you worked with your management team. There's a lot of very important information there, and thank you for that. If any commissioners have questions, these have all been policy matters over the years that have been in front of you. We've analyzed, we've approved, we've authorized. Are there any questions at this point for Tom? Okay, thank you, Assistant Chief. You're right. We can do better, and we must do better. Item number 3 is the approval of the minutes. You have the minutes. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
I move to approve.
I would second that.
All right, we have a motion to approve minutes as submitted to the commission. Are there any questions? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 No, thank you. Item number 4, the confirmation of bills. Again, Commissioners, Leanne has electronically provided you with the billing statements from police, fire, and EMS. What are your wishes?
I have but one comment. I appreciate the budget updates, and I would like to commend all 3 sets of budgets as they are within the 33% of the budget that's gone by, and they're all still within line. My standard comment, however, is also we've got to do a better job on some of these ITs, etc., getting the controller downtown to give us realistic figures in the future.
Okay. Are there other questions, comments, input relevant to the bills that have been submitted to the Commission for review?
No, whenever Bob gives his stamp of approval, it puts me at ease.
All right, I will move. Thank you, Commissioner Carlson. I will move approval of the bills.
Second.
Second. Joe Kirschling with the second. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Both say no. Motion carries. Item number 5 is the update on another tragedy that continues to grip our nation, and that is the pandemic. An update on COVID-19 and the fire department's operational update. Chief Finn, I'm going to ask that you either speak very loudly or move a little closer to the phone. Chief Finn, the update on COVID-19 and fire department operational update, please.
All right, as it goes to the fire department operational update is that as of this week, the fire department is basically up to normal operations with proper social distancing and proper PPE. We are back out doing fire inspections. We have gone to paperless burn permits between the fire marshal and John Quirk. We were able to set it up online, and the residents of the city don't not have to come in to get a burn permit, but if they do, we can do a computer. We can punch it in the computer and send it via email to them. At this time, we're still not giving tours or doing any blood pressures, and that would be reevaluated on a weekly basis at our staff meetings. We also have signed 2 contracts. One is through the state for the supply chain, any PPE that is needed. First responders get first crack at it. There's contracts set up for the fire department and for Portage County ambulance also. We also signed a contract with to do our decontaminations of our N95 mask. Chief Gemza is in the process of developing a protocol and how this procedure is going to work, but basically if they're exposed or come in contact with COVID-19 or they use their N95 mask more than 5 times, it will put them in a bag and it will be shipped down to Madison and be deconned. As far as COVID-19 goes, as of yesterday, there was 15 confirmed cases now in Portage County. It's an increase of 2. On Sunday, I was informed that we did transport a patient. It was our first COVID-19 transport in an ambulance, and all proper protocols were followed. As of yesterday, there was 1,887 negatives in the county and 10 recoveries. Individuals investigated to date in Portage County are 2,110, including 5 probable cases, 1,887 negative tests, 1 suspected case, 87 individuals who did not meet the testing criteria at the time of the medical evaluation, and 115 pending tests. The EOC for the city is in a monitoring phase. The firehouse at staff and at our weekly staff meeting, the management team, we reevaluate everything that we're doing. We've even, if we make changes, we've had close contact with Chief Center. Let him know what's going on. So between the police and fire department, we've been in constant communications on PPE protocols, if we need enough equipment, or if they need anything else, and we're working very close together. And that's pretty much my update on COVID-19.
Are there questions from the members of the Police and Fire Commission for Chief Finn on his? All right, I don't hear anyone asking any questions. Of course, it's a time for continued vigilance. I think that's important. There is interesting data out there on this virus, on its potential mutation. There is interesting data on the second wave we've all been hearing so much about on and off for the last few months, and whether or not the timing on that, what it is, and that seems to vary every day. Perhaps a sad note is, at least in the last 4 or 5 days, the last time I looked at the data, the number of actual hospitalizations, as Chief Finn and Chief Gems and others would know, of folks hospitalized in Wisconsin because of COVID is actually increased. So it's a time to be vigilant, and I think that will remain our operative word. Bob, thank you for the update. It's an important update. It's an important update for the community, and I appreciate you and the work all of the folks at the fire and EMS are doing on this. The next item is yours too, sir. Item number 6 is the creation of a training officer in the fire department. Members of the commission, this is not a new topic for us. We have had training officers in the past. Former Chief Yegorek was a training officer. Former Deputy Chief Clark Crandall was a training officer. We have discussed at the time when it was eliminated or sidelined because of budgetary concerns. But Chief Finn is back in front of us today to talk about the formal creation of an important position in the department, and that's a training officer. Bob?
Thank you, sir. As you mentioned, we had a training officer, I believe, up until January 1st of 2009, when Craig Crandall, the training officer, was forced to resign. The city pay plan that came before you a year and a half, 18 months ago, was, if we did not get the grant, was one firefighter in 2020, which is already budgeted for in the fire department budget, one for 2021, and one for 2022. Comptroller Laddick, before COVID-19, had said that 2021, that pay plan, that the city probably could not add an additional firefighter. And he's also talked about approximately $300,000 to $350,000 hit to the city over COVID-19. So as we operate as 3 shifts, a shift of 14, 13, and 13 really doesn't do any good. We, as a management team, looked at how we can utilize this 14th person in a better position, and we went back to the training officer. We are in the process of updating our classroom. We are in the process of updating our training site. And we are also in the process of buying brand new training software. And to get the most out of these 3 capital expenditures that the Police and Fire Commission approved and then the city allocated the money for, the management team thought the best would be to have a training officer. This coming before you today is the first step. I have a draft job description that I'm reviewing that the 2 assistant chiefs wrote. We will get this to HR to get over to Springsteen, whoever the firm is. I've already talked to the comptroller treasurer about that this was going to be on this agenda. With the money budgeted for 2020, there will be no financial impact to the fire department budget by us adding this position. It is my belief, and also the belief of the 2 assistant chiefs, if I may speak for them, that if we get this position and we utilize it as our best of our ability as we intend to, and get our training records and our training up to date, that within 18 months we can call ISO in and become an ISO 1 fire department. And ISO 1 will affect every homeowner and business owner in the city of Stevens Point on their fire insurance. We are 1.5 points away. Our biggest deficiency was in training. And I might also add the addition of the fire marshal position will also help us in this. And that's what the next step would be, go to city personnel, get this position approved. Even though we report directly to you, a new position has to be approved by the city, even though there's no financial impact. And then we would like to get this position advertised within the firehouse. I believe there are more than one qualified candidate. Hopefully they will apply and have the training officer up and running by Labor Day. Talking about My next topic is update on interview process for new hires. That plays right into this effect, that we did interview, we had in-person interviews, 5, one person did a Zoom. We are waiting for Chippewa Valley Technical College to get their CPAP and ergometrics testing done. And we could hire that person, get them through training, and hopefully we can get that person hired in August, get the training officer position in September, and then we would have the organizational chart would have a fire marshal and a training officer plus 3 crews of 13.
Now, it's 3 crews of how many, Bob?
13. That's what we currently have now.
Oh, I thought you had said earlier you had 14, 14, and 13.
No, right now we're at 13, 13, and 13. We wanted to go to 14, 14, and 14 so we could make a 4-man engine company, which is an NFPA requirement that we do not meet as often as we'd like because of manpower shortages. But this way, we can accomplish the goal and try to figure out how to hire the other 3 personnel in better financial times.
So full strength would then be 42 people if you got the 3 you wanted, eventually.
We're at 42 right now.
Oh, I thought you said 3 crews.
Right,
of-
but I'm talking the management staff and stuff, sir.
All right,
We're at 42 with the management staff.
Talking just manpower.
Right,
You would like to get to.
I would like-
14.
right, that would be 42 personnel on crew, correct, on shift.
Training officer would be considered part of management.
Yes,
Okay, thank you. Well, you know, this is a subject that makes nothing but total sense to me. It's kind of like, you know, in your own household, sometimes you see you need something that would just simply make life not only easier, but normal. And I think the city is robbing the fire department in the past in order to, how would I say, justify budgets elsewhere. But if there's one thing I pay taxes for, it's for police and fire and ambulance protection. Nothing ranks higher than why I live in the city and what I expect from the city. I totally endorse the idea of the training officer. I remember when Mr. Crandall was a member of it, and in fact I was a little bit shocked it goes back that far that it was discontinued. And it seems stupid that it was discontinued because of a budgetary item. So I would throw my complete support behind this.
I would too, Bob. You made some good points. And I just want to tell Chief Finn, I think it's a great innovative way to utilize your manpower. Usually when budgets shrink or go down, an easy cut is the training budget. I think that's when you need training even more so, when the times get tough. So I like the way you're shuffling your people around, putting in a lineup like that, and I think it does the entire community a world of good.
I have a couple of questions, Chief Finn. If you could address or elaborate a little bit more, if and when, and I do support it as we've discussed, the training officer is operationalized, what will that free up as far as time and duties for other captains and lieutenants? What are we going to be able to do more of with a training officer that is limited right now?
it'll free up 75% of Chief Moody's job so he can do what he's supposed to be doing, to be honest with you. And it'll also free up time for Chief Gemza because this position will also be training in EMS. It'll be a more unified training structure where everyone's getting the same training. Right now, each officer, they're trying to do as much unified training as possible, but with COVID-19 and we weren't able to train with each other, everyone was training on their own things at each station. This would bring better operations to the fire ground and on ambulance scenes to help the citizens.
You've anticipated my next question. The training officer would be a certified paramedic and skilled in training techniques in that area. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. And when you mention it has an effect on the every homeowner in the city of Stevens Point as far as the ISO, I think our community understands that it's a positive impact. Generally speaking, that's a lower fire insurance premium. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir, homeowners, when we went from a 4 to a 2, there should have been a minimal decrease in homeowners, and the businesses same sum, but when you become a 1, there's a more substantial decrease in your homeowners insurance and business insurance. I believe there's 241 fire departments in the whole country that are ISO 1. When you become an ISO 1, that's something you proudly display on your rig. Some people put ISO 2 on there, but I'm a competitor. Being number 2 doesn't mean anything to me. You always want to be number 1.
I clearly understand from your report that you have, at least in your opinion, eligible, qualified internal candidates, at least right now. Would that be correct, too?
That's correct, sir, yes.
All right. Are there other questions from the commissioners for Fire Chief Finn?
Bob, Chief Finn, would the training officer also coordinate training with the area other fire departments?
He would coordinate the metro training with our automatic aid towns would be Hull and Plover, and they would also help coordinate and if need teach the first responders that are under Chief Gemza's license.
Thank you, that's very important information.
All right, but imagine you're looking for a motion from the commission to support or endorse the formal creation of this and recommend its creation to both the Personnel Committee and the Common Council. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct, sir.
All right, I will make that motion. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Second by Commissioner Ostrowski. Are there further questions? If not, all in favor, please say aye. 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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Okay, Chief, you keep us posted when the draft documents on job description and others are available. Please circulate them among the commission too.
Okay.
All right, Bob, I think you probably have covered item 7. Do you need to add anything else on the update on interview process for new hires?
The only other fact was that due to a lot of hard work by the 2 assistant chiefs, we were able to hire 3 people during the COVID crisis, which is pretty much unheard of, and all 3 of our new candidates have officially started.
And they're all working toward their paramedic certification, is that correct?
Correct. Some of them have finished school and are waiting for the state test. I believe it's the end of June.
All right, so our
Or the
timeline,
National Registry test, I'm sorry.
and the timeline for completion for all 3 is this calendar year or sooner?
1 year from date of appointment, sir.
Right, but they're
Or
going-
sooner. They will all, I'm anticipating all 3 will be certified paramedics by Labor Day.
Good news. All right, if there is no additional, or if there are no additional questions on item 7, let's transition to the fire chief's report. As we have learned, there is no EMS report this month because Assistant Chief Gemza is unavailable. He's on vacation. Bob, anything you wish to add to your fire chief's report that the commissioners have?
No, you have the report. It's been pretty busy.
Yeah. All right, commissioners, I'll give you an opportunity. Are there questions for Bob on the fire chief's report?
No.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Place it on file.
I'll make a motion to approve the fire chief's report.
Kirschling with a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Now, nobody touch the phone as Bob moves away from it, okay? All right, and item number 9, police operations, interior security, additional fob access. Assistant Chief Zenner, this one's yours. When you're prepared to report to the commission, please proceed.
Okay, thank you, and I'll be looking for a motion to move forward on the addition of an additional fob access within the police department. we were approached, well, first off, with the recent retirement of Ed Eggleston, who was working half-time IT. That has created an opportunity for a hire for the city that will be transitioning to the IT and out of the police budget line. I was approached by the mayor, looking at with having limited space at the current city hall to relocate potentially office space for the current full-time IT person and that half-time position to be located here, which actually conversations have led that may become full. But long story short, obviously the mayor would need access to the building as well as other department heads, as that IT position would essentially be an asset for all department heads. So looking to add a fob access, we currently do not have one. It's an interior door on the south end of the police department. The south wing is currently where we do have space for IT personnel to locate, and other than that, we have locker rooms. But we can add a fob and an interior door that would secure all police operations and meet CJIS guidelines and still give access not only to the mayor but other department heads, so they could have one-on-one access with that IT personnel. So looking to move forward, what we do, I just communicated with Lieutenant Mueller, who's been heading this project. We do have a quote to put in, a one fob, and that would be for $1,100. We do have money left over in capital for the building and remodels within the building to fund that. It would not come out of our budget line.
Tom, would it be just department heads that would have that access, or would it be an assistant department head, or how many,
Right now, the discussion was with the mayor, and I would add department heads on it, as obviously they would need that access. Now, if it came down to a department head that had a second that they would want, I certainly wouldn't have an issue with it. Again, this fob access would secure law enforcement and our operations and be in compliance with CJIS requirements.
So we're getting a little noise on the line here. So commissioners, if I'm not sure it's commissioners, if you have the opportunity to mute your phone when you're not speaking, that may cut back on some of the background noise. I'm not sure what the origin of that is. Tom, I want to make sure that I understand. We're basically going to secure the door on the southern portion of that long police hallway, and then access to IT would come off of Michigan Avenue in there. Is that the plan?
No, actually, it would be a shared entrance that our patrol officers use. It would be the southeast corner of the police department, similar to the back parking lot by Boys and Girls Club. That would be the access that department heads would be able to use.
Okay, is that currently a fob access door?
That is also a fob access. So essentially, that's the secure entrance into the police department. After going through that corridor, you would have access to the main patrol operations. Therefore, that's the reason we would put that fob access. And it's actually a double glass door that is at the end of the hallway. I'm sure you've all seen it at one point, and it's just really not a whole lot of construction. All we'd have to do is drop a fob, an electric line in there to put the fob in. So it actually makes sense to fob that to begin with.
And what is the estimated cost of this, securing the additional south door, sir?
That would be approximately $1,100. We could use the one fob to basically allow access in both doors. Really no need for that, because you can obviously see by the carpet what door is being used. We would still have both doors could be utilized by officers or any individual within the building to part, so it doesn't change any of the flow. It just restricts that access.
Well, I think it's an appropriate trade-off to have the benefit of having the citywide IT systems and IT employees readily available at the police department, and I think it's a good idea to go ahead and do it and secure that door. Colleagues, what are you thinking?
Just wondering on one thing. Jenna, you mentioned an interior hallway door. Is that going to get us in trouble with the fire department?
No, well, let him answer.
Good.
Okay. We still have 2 points of access even to, it's the entire, it'd be the south wing that would be, essentially, would have the restriction for access. We still have doors on both sides that would exit the building, so there's no
Okay.
egress issues.
There's no issues for the fire department.
I just think it's a no-brainer. I mean, you have the access to that person all the time, and it meets a city need. It's an easy decision as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. Commissioner Moore, Kirschling, any other comments?
No, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Joe? Yep, so do I. All right, any other thoughts or comments from the commission? I will move approval of the request from Assistant Chief Center and the department to secure that south door to support the installation of citywide IT in that south wing there. Is there a second?
I'll second
I'll
it.
second.
Okay.
All right, let's give it to Commissioner Moore. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, proceed, Chief Center. Okay, the next item is the report from Assistant Chief Center. Commissioners, I'll give you an opportunity to get the report loaded on your computer and get it in front of you. Chief Center, what do you wish to share with the commission regarding the report?
I'd like to touch just on a few things that we have going with COVID-19. Essentially, we're continuing par for course. We have obviously had some changes. Our records department has returned to the building for work. They were working at home. That's due to, as of this Monday, we have opened up our lobby. We do have limited service yet on that. We have not, at this point, have not developed a plan to move forward with fingerprinting services that we do. Actually, Lieutenant Williams will be working on that in the future, and we'll develop a plan of how we'll move forward. We are continuing, and some of this has changed as of the time of the writing. Our patrol shifts are continuing on a modified shift that we developed at the onset of COVID-19, and our investigations bureau continued to work separate shifts, but as situations have changed, we have brought our investigations bureau back on day shift. And quite frankly, with the events that have taken place and the requirement of personnel being called in potentially, we may have some difficulties maintaining a modified schedule and limiting contact between patrol shifts. That's still our goal, though, at this time. Parking enforcement has returned as our community service officers have returned from furlough. And other than that, Lieutenant Jeremy Mueller continues to be the department point of contact for all COVID-19 related communication and FEMA data collection.
Tom, with the reestablishment of office hours at Records Bureau, how are we maintaining social distancing, sanitizing when appropriate? We certainly have to continue to do these things. How is that being accomplished?
Correct. Lieutenant Williams has put out notices within the lobby area identifying social distance requirements. Assistant Chief Rotier's worked, records personnel will assist with cleaning. We've removed tables, chairs, any writing instruments, and we have a cleaning protocol established for when individuals come and go.
Good. All right. Are there questions for Assistant Chief Center on the report submitted to the Commission?
On the COVID report or other items of the report?
On the COVID or on any other item, anything relevant to the report?
I'm curious about the note of interest number 3. Was that on May 13th with the knife with a high-risk stop? Was that a mental health situation?
Yes, it was. That was an assist that we had with Portage County. And I did have a few things I was going to add in relation to some staffing issues too, after any questions.
Oh, you want me to ask questions?
If you have any questions,
And
then
then
before I'm done,
on
I'll
the
go.
back page, was that a juvenile who threatened to stab someone, I'm assuming?
That, the information I know was also a mental health related call.
Okay, all right. And then the last thing I have questioned, the drug-related, was an arrest made with the heroin in the home?
I would need to follow up with our investigators on that. I believe that's still an ongoing investigation.
I only ask because that's the first step in getting people better is, you know, through an arrest and sentencing and, sorry.
Right.
All right, I'll be quiet. That's all my questions.
Sorry, somebody have a question?
No, go ahead, Tom. You want to talk about staffing?
Yes, I just wanted to touch on staffing. We are currently in a hiring process for officer. We have, as I believe I reported last month, Officer Gary Anderson will be retiring this summer, I believe after 29 years of service with the city of Stevens Point. And Officer David Rogers had resigned last month. That process is being headed by Assistant Chief Mike Rotier, and I believe we'll be doing interviews as of next week. And I believe we have 23 applicants that we'll be doing an interview with. Also, we just finished or commenced the hiring process for an administrative assistant. We should be moving forward here shortly with a hire. We don't have that done yet at this point, though.
Would you, and maybe we're a little early here, but with the retirement of Ed, our halftime IT coordinator, what is the plan moving forward for IT assistance or support within police and fire there?
That position will transition into a citywide IT. We still have the full-time spot, and Chief Finn can assist me on this. I know, obviously, we'll be filling that slot, but conversations of whether that may go to a full-time slot too. But that's still in discussion. Chief Finn, I don't know if you have more information on that one.
I believe that they're gonna try to transition it into a full-time position, but it has to go before personnel. I think it's going to committees next Monday before city council.
All right, so who right now with the retirement of Ed after so many years with the city, both as a police officer and IT, who's covering the IT desk for protected services?
Right now, that's falling under Alex. He's the full-time slot. He's worked very closely with Ed. Certainly, we have some unique software, so I would assume there may be a little bit of a hiccup. Locally, we have one of our lieutenants that has rudimentary knowledge, I would say, of some of the day-to-day things such as replacing a printer or some issues with our digital ally, body cams, squad cameras, all that IT issues.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Are there other questions for Assistant Chief Center on the report he submitted to the commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the report and place it on file, please.
So moved to approve the report.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Moore. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 11 is consideration, and I will so move, consideration of a motion to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute Section 1985, 1C and F of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering employment of a public employee over which the commission has jurisdiction and considering medical, social, or personal histories disciplinary data of specific individuals and persons which, if discussed in public, would likely have an adverse effect on the reputation of the persons involved in the disciplinary data, including discussion of disciplinary order issued to police chief and items related to disciplinary order. The commission will adjourn from this closed session without reconvening into public session. Is there a second to the motion? I'm sorry, I missed the second.
I will.
Second. All right, thank you, Commissioner Kirschland. All right,
Thank
the
you,
motion
Bob.
has been made. Leanne, would you please call the roll?
Carlson?
Yes.
Kirschling?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Ostrowski?
Yes.
And Westcott?
Yes. All right, we're going to pause for a moment, and that will.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.